Hi, fourth graders from our Shingaling book club. I just decided to go ahead and record the book reading. And then we'll have spring break next week, and then let's finish Shingaling. So here we go. I'm going back with our third group. They are still on how we got to know each other better, which is page 230 for any of you guys who do have the books. So I'll try to read maybe 4 or 5 chapters now at this one setting. Oh, you guys, I miss you. Um, I do have to say, our book club was one of my favorite times of my week. So, all right, so here we go. The chapter is How We Got to Know Each Other Better, page 230. The next few weeks flew by, a crazy blur of snowstorms and dance rehearsals and science fair projects and studying for tests and trying to solve the mystery of what had happened to Gordie Johnson. More on that later. Mrs. Watanabe turned out to be quite the little drill sergeant, lovable in her own cute, waddly way, but really pushy, like we could never practice enough for her. Drills, drills, drills. End point, shimmy, hip roll, classical ballet, modern dance, a little bit of jazz, no tap, downbeat, half toe, everything done her way because she had a lot of very specific dance quirks. Things she obsessed about. The dances themselves weren't hard. The twist, the monkey, the Watusi, the pony, the hitchhike, the swim, the hucklebuck, the shingling. But it was doing them exactly the way she wanted us to do them that was hard. Doing them as part of a larger choreographed piece and doing them in sync. That's what we spent most of our time working on. The way we carried our arms, the way we snapped our fingers, our turnouts, our jumps. We had to work hard on learning how to dance alike, not just together. The dance we spent the most time working on was the shingling. It was the centerpiece of Mrs. Watanabe's whole dance number, what she used to transition from one dance style to the next. But there were so many variations to it. The Latin one, the R&B one, the funk shingling. It was hard not to mix them up. And Mrs. Watanabe was so particular about the way each one was danced. Funny how she could be so loosey-goosey about some things, like never once getting to a rehearsal on time, and yet be so strict about other things, like, God forbid you do a diagonal chasse instead of a sideways chasse. Uh-oh, careful, the world as you know it might end. Okay, so I think Charlotte's got a sense of humor. I'm not saying that Mrs. Watanabe wasn't nice, by the way. I want to be fair. She was super nice, reassuring us if we were having trouble with a new routine. Small steps, girls. Everything starts with small steps. Surprising us with brownies after a particularly intense workout. Driving us home when she kept us rehearsing too late. Telling us funny stories about other teachers. Personal stories about her own life, how she'd grown up in the barrio, how some of her friends had gone down the wrong path, how watching American Bandstand had saved her life, how she'd met her husband, who was also a dancer, while performing with Cirque du Soleil in Quebec. We fell in love doing arabesques on a tightrope 30 feet in the air, but it was intense. When I would go to sleep at night, I had so much information bouncing around my head, bits of music, things to memorize, math equations, to-do lists, Mrs. Watanabe saying in her smooth East Harlem accent, "It's the shingling, baby." There were times when I would just put my headset on to drown out the chatter in my brain. I wish I could do accents. Then I would try to say, "It's the shingling, baby," but you guys, I can't do accents. I was having so much fun, though, I wouldn't have changed a thing. Because the best part about all the crazy rehearsing and Mrs. Watanabe's drills and everything else, oh, you guys, that's our dog. Prince, 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 Prince. Oh boy, we'll see how far I get. Oh, he can be very focused. Prince, Prince, come here. Prince, come here, come here, come here. You wanna come up? You wanna come up and say hi? Okay, you stay close. Can you guys, I don't know if you guys can see Prince. Let me see if I can tilt the camera down. Oh, Prince, he just got down. He's a really cute guy. All right, let's see here. All right, so Charlotte is having so much fun, she wouldn't have changed a thing. And I don't want to sound corny, she says. was that Shemaina, Summer, and I were really starting to get to know each other. Okay, that does sound corny, but it's true. Look, I'm not saying we became best friends or anything. Summer still hung out with Augie, Shemaina still hung out with Savannah, I still played dots with Maya, but we were becoming friends, like friends. Shemaina's snarkiness, by the way, was completely put on, something she could take off whenever she wanted to, like a scarf you wear as an accessory until it starts feeling itchy around your neck. When she was with Savannah, she wore the scarf. With us, she took it off. That's not to say I didn't still get nervous around her sometimes. OMG. The first time she came over to my house, I was a complete wreck. I was nervous that my mom would embarrass me. I was nervous that the stuffed animals on my bed were too pink. I was nervous about the Big Time Rush poster on my bedroom door. I was nervous that my dog Suki would pee on her. But of course, everything turned out fine. Shemaina was totally nice, said I had a cool room, offered to do the dishes after dinner, made fun of a particularly hilarious photo of me when I was 3, which was fair because I looked like a sock puppet in it. At some point during that afternoon, I don't even know when it was, I actually stopped thinking, Shemaina Chin is in my house. Shemaina Chin is in my house. And just started having fun. Good for you, Charlotte. That was huge for me because it was a turning point. The moment I stopped acting like an idiot around Shemaina, no more word vomits. I guess that was when I took my scarf off too. All right. Okay. Oh, got some wind here. Anyway, February was intense but awesome. And by the end of February, we were pretty much hanging out at my place every day after school, dancing in front of the mirrored walls, self correcting, matching our moves. Whenever we'd get tired or discouraged, one of us would say in Mrs. Watanabe's accent, "It's the shingling, baby," and that would keep us going. And sometimes we didn't rehearse. Sometimes we just chilled in my living room by the fire doing homework together, or hanging out, or occasionally searching for Gordie Johnson. All right. So, you guys, the next one is how I prefer happy endings. It's only a little over a page. All right. One of the things I miss the most about being a little kid is that when you're little, all the movies you watch have happy endings. Dorothy goes back to Kansas, Charlie gets the chocolate factory, Edmund redeems himself. I like that. I like happy endings. But as you get older, you start seeing that sometimes stories don't have happy endings. Sometimes they even have sad endings. Of course, that makes for more interesting storytelling because you don't know what's going to happen, but it's also kind of scary. Anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the more we look for Gordie Johnson, the more I start realizing that this story might not have a happy ending. We had started our search by simply Googling his name, but it turns out there are hundreds of Gordie Johnsons. Gordie Johnsons, Gordie Johnsons. Oh, so like Gordie with a Y, Gordie with an IE, Gordon. That's what it shows in the book. There's a famous jazz musician named Gordie Johnson, which we theorized could explain the rumor that the eye shop man had heard about our Gordie Johnson. There are politician Gordon Johnsons, construction worker Gordon Johnsons, veterans, lots of obituaries. The internet doesn't distinguish between names of the living and names of the dead. And every time we clicked on one of those names, we would be relieved that it wasn't our Gordie Johnson, but sad that it was someone else's Gordie Johnson. At first, Shemaina didn't really join in the search. She would be doing her homework or texting Miles on one side of the bedroom, while Summer and I huddled around my laptop, scrolling through page after page of dead ends. But one day, Shemaina pulled her chair next to ours and started looking over our shoulders. Maybe you should try searching by image, she suggested, which we did. It was still a dead end, but after that, Shemaina became interested in finding out what happened to Shemaina became as interested in finding out what happened to Gordie Johnson as we were. Okay. All right. The next chapter is how I discovered something about Maya. And I know groups 1 and 2 have already read this part, but I just want to catch up our group 3. So, my dog's going a little bonkers here. Okay. Well, he's having his day in the sun too, I guess. All right. How I discovered something about Maya. Meanwhile, at school, everything was business as usual. We had our science fair. Remo and I got a B plus for our cell anatomy diorama, which was more than I thought we would get, considering I spent as little time on that project as possible. Shemana and Savannah built a sundial. The most interesting one was probably Augie and Jack's, though. It was a working lamp powered by a potato. I figured Augie probably did most of the work since, let's face it, Jack's never been what one would call a gifted student, but he was so happy to have gotten an A on it. He looked so cute, like a little happy but somewhat clueless emoticon. And this was my emoticon when I saw him. It shows hearts for eyes. Oh, I think Charlotte's got a crush on Jack Will. By the end of February, the boy war had really escalated, though. Summer filled me in about what was going on since she had the inside scoop on everything from Augie and Jack's point of view. Apparently, I was sworn to secrecy. Julian had started leaving really nasty yellow post it notes for Jack and Augie in their lockers. I felt so bad for them. Maya felt bad for them, too. She had become obsessed with the boy war herself, though I wasn't sure why at first. It's not like she had ever made any attempts to be friends with Augie, and she always treated Jack like a goofball. Like back in the days when Ellie and I would point out how cute he looked in his artful Dodger top hat, Maya would stick her fingers in her ears and cross her eyes, as if even the thought of him repulsed her. So I figured her interest in the war had to do with the fact that, quirky as she was, Maya had a good heart. It was only one day at lunch when I saw her hard at work on some kind of list that I understood why she cared so much. In her notebook, where she designs her dot games, she had 3 rows of tiny post its with the names of all the boys in the grade. She was sorting them into columns: Jack's side, Julian's side, neutrals. I think it'll help Jack to know he's not alone in this war, she explained. That's when I realized Maya has a little crush on Jack Will. Oh, that's so cute. Sweet, I answered, not wanting to make her self conscious, so I helped her organize the list. We disagreed about some of the neutrals. She ultimately gave in to me. Then she copied the list onto a piece of loose leaf paper and folded it in half, then in quarters, then in eighths, then in sixteenths. What are you going to do with it? I don't know, she answered, pushing her glasses back up on her nose. I don't want it to get in the wrong hands. You want me to give it to Summer? Yes. So I gave the list to Summer to give to Jack and Augie. I think Summer might have assumed that I had made the list myself, which I didn't correct because I had helped Maya work on the list, so I thought it was fine. How's the dance stuff going? Maya asked me in her flat voiced way the same day. I knew she was just trying to be polite since she couldn't care less, but she was good that way. At least she made an effort to act interested. Crazy, I answered, biting into my sandwich. Mrs. Atanabe is absolutely insane. Ha! Mrs. Madanabe, said Maya. Yeah, I said, good one. It's like you've been hibernating the whole month of February, though, said Maya. I've barely seen you. You never walk home with us after school. I nodded. I know, we've been practicing at lunchtime lately, but we'll be done soon enough, just a few more weeks. The gala is on March 15th. Beware the Ides of March, she said. And group 3, with the other 2 groups, we had looked up the reference to Ides of March. It has to do with Caesar of the Roman Empire. One of his people, I believe, either conspired to kill him or killed him on March 15th. And Ides is a reference for the middle of the month. So that's what that means. Beware the Ides of March, she said. Oh, yeah, right, I said, though I had absolutely no idea what she was talking about. See, Charlotte didn't know either. All right. So, want to see the sketches of my newest colossal dot game? Sure, I answered, taking a deep breath. She pulled out her notebook and launched into a detailed explanation of how she had stopped using grid patterns for her dots and was now using chalk art style graphics to create murals so that when the dots got filled in, sorry, that's our dog. So when the dots got filled in, They would have a dynamic flow pattern or something like that. The truth is, I had trouble following what she was saying. The only part I heard for sure was when she said, I haven't brought my new dot game to school yet because I want to make sure you're around to play it. Oh, sweet, I answered, scratching my head. I couldn't believe how bored I was at the moment. She started saying something else about the dots, and I glanced over at Summer's table to distract myself. She, Jack, and Augie were laughing. I could guarantee you one thing, they weren't talking about dots. There were times when I really wished I had the guts to just go and sit with them. Then I looked over at the Savannah table. They were all laughing and having a good time too. Savannah, Ellie, Gretchen, Shemana, all talking to the boys at the table across from them. Julian, Miles, Henry, Amos. Isn't she awful? Said Maya, following my gaze. Ellie? I asked, because that's who I was looking at that exact moment. No, Shemana Chin. I turned around and gave Maya a look. I knew she hated Shemana, but for some reason the way she had said it, in this seething tone, just surprised me. So what is this thing you have against Shemana Chin? I asked. It's Ellie who ditched us, remember? It's Savannah who hasn't been nice to us. That's not true, Maya argued. Savannah's always been nice to me. We used to have play dates all the time when we were in lower school. I shook my head. Yeah, but Maya, I said, playdates don't count. Half the time our moms set those up. Now we get to choose who we want to hang out with, and Savannah is choosing not to hang out with us. Ellie is choosing not to hang out with us, just like we're choosing not to hang out with some people. It's not that big a deal, but it's certainly not Shemana Chin's fault. Maya peered over her glasses at the Savannah table, and I watched her. I realized she still looked exactly the way she did in kindergarten, when we would have tetherball games in the playground or go on fairy quests in the park at sunset. In some ways, Maya hadn't grown up that much since then. Her face, her glasses, and her hair, they were almost identical to what they used to be. She was taller now, of course, but almost everything else remained unchanged, especially her expressions. They were exactly the same. No, Ellie used to be nice to me, she answered very surely, just like Savannah was. I blame it all on Shemana Chin. All right. So I know that one of the questions that we talked about is how has Maya changed or not changed? How has Charlotte changed, especially in comparison to Maya? So you guys, I'm going to stop this video now because I think long videos can sometimes be overwhelming. Um, and I will work on getting things up on the Google Classroom. Okay. All right. I'll probably record another video while there's some peace out here this morning, and I'll be in touch with you guys. All right. All right. I hope you're having a wonderful day where you are. And I'm gonna hang up now. All right. Bye, guys.